and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about and making a video about one particular game from a very popular franchise, the Metal Gear franchise, and more specifically its spin-off title, one of two spin-off titles, or probably a lot more, I'm not sure, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Today, as today is recording this video, today it is February 19th. So, yep, it marks his 10-year anniversary. Here comes a game that surprisingly it became more popular as time go by. As time went on, it became more popular every single year. So here's a game. It was the brainchild. I started as a brainchild of Kojima, and I want this vision of this particular game come true. Getting Platinum Games to work on the game, and the game was released, and not a lot of people cared at the time. But as time went on, most I would say the previous few years, I would say since 2021, the series got resurgence of popularity more than ever, became more popular more than ever, with countless of memes running around, countless people talking about it, and it's really crazy, insane how this game, once it's like no one cared about it, now becoming more popular and more relevant, and a game that stayed relevant even 10 years from now, which is, it's a little niche spin-off title that became more popular, and more people start playing the game. As of 2023, the series, many people start playing it. Mostly, I would say recently, people start playing the game. People start replaying the game. I replayed the game 2 years ago. And I'm thinking of replaying the game hopefully soon enough. And it's a good game, but besides like the popularity and memes, the game itself, it's a decent game. It's a really good game. It's pretty short, and you're gonna see why in a moment. Why I think the game is pretty good. Is it like as awesome as people saying? It is, but but if you play it once, and I'll explain why in a moment. So the game supposedly takes place in the time of Metal Gear Solid 4, after MGS4. And by the way, guys, think of this as kind of like a Metal Gear Rising experience video as well. So put that right there. I'm not gonna put it as part of the Metal Gear Solid experience, because this is a far departure. It might have the Metal Gear name, but it's not a Metal Gear Solid game by any sort of imagination. It's completely different. One's a stealth game and one's a hack and slash game. There's a big difference. So the game obviously takes place after the events of MGS4. And I don't know the timeline, so don't ask me. Ask someone who's a fan of the franchise. Don't ask me. Apparently this game is after MGS4, a few years after it. And you're basically now Raiden working for the government or some shit. Yep, the same Raiden from the fourth game and the second game, that guy. Try to save the Prime Minister and fails to fight it, and you basically go in there and just hacking and slashing some people. The story to me in the game, I didn't care much for it, as when it comes to the Metal Gear games. But by comparison, like the story of the Metal Gear Rising is just like just another story of it's just nonsensical and crazy. It is over the top though, so it makes sense for hack and slash games. Hack and slash games are always over the top, no matter what it is. So didn't care much for the story, I'm gonna be honest with you. So I don't know what the story much about. It's just try stop some like World War III and there's like nuclear weaponry. I don't think they actually mentioned any nuclear weapon whatsoever in that game. I don't know. The story is some typical Metal Gear story of some guy trying to rule America or try to be like the next president. start nuclear war, blah blah blah, and memes and Twitter. Yeah, by the way, social media is part of the plot, by the way, which is kind of like funny when I first saw it, and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter. So, yeah, there's that one right there. So, yeah, story basic as hell, and it's not really. If I compared it to Metal Gear Solid games, it doesn't hold a candle whatsoever. It doesn't hold a single candle, not even a wax. There's not even a wax even. To be honest, in comparison to story related, but characters is another thing I liked about the game. Mostly the villains. The villains are the reason why I like the game. Raiden just being Raiden, boring as ever, all that kind of stuff, boring as ever. And you got your Colonel, you got your Otacon, a female Otacon, or a male Otacon, an old dude, Doctor, whatever the heck this guy's name. You got Boris, you got Kevin, which is a mechanic guy, which is basically, I don't know, is kind of I forgot the dude's name from Metal Gear Solid 3, I forgot the dude's name. And what other things, like other characters. The villains are the highlights from Mitsuo, I think it's her name, the chick with the red hair. Mansu, a literal fun, really cool boss, and I really like him. Sundowner, I'm fucking invincible. One of the most badass fucking characters in my opinion. Sam, my favorite. Just from Sam, that's all why the reason for later, for a bit. And the main man himself, and pretty much a lot of people's fan favorite character in Metal Gear Rising, Sandra Armstrong, which is the main antagonist of the game. So yeah, the characters are the characters are pretty small. I mean, it's a spin-off title. It's not like a big giant Metal Gear Solid, which is basically every single character is in the game. But anywho, so character-wise, it's pretty decent. Character-wise, the villains are the ones that are good. So that's that one. Now, what about gameplay-wise? What do you think of gameplay? If I would compare it to most of the games, I'm gonna compare it to another game that came out, because 2013 was a good year for hack and slash. There were 3 hack and slash games that came out in that year: DMC, Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge, and this game. Out of all of them, I have to say that Metal Gear Rising, in combat-wise, is the most kind of stale combat. It has a bit of a stale combat, I'm gonna be honest. Comparing this to DMC, Devil May Cry, that had way better combat, way funner combat for most of the time, because there's not a lot of learning curve. That's the problem. There's not a lot of learning curves comparing to DMC, the reboot, which is a far better game, gameplay-wise, than Metal Gear Rising, because the moveset might be cool and having different right weapons, but the only thing you have to know how to play is the parry system. The parry system is probably the only thing you should master and the only thing you should actually practice to do, and that's it. Once you know how to parry, that's it. Even basic parrying, if you can know how to parry, if you have good timing, that's it. You just mastered the game. Literally, that's all you have to do, and with no joke, if you know how to parry, and you can spam parrying to a degree that you barely take damage, and you can literally just ace the game. No joke, you can definitely just ace the game, no problem. And that's one of the things about this game that kind of makes the gameplay go from a decent game to a way better game, gameplay wise. But honestly, gameplay wise, it's a bit stale. It kind of gets boring when it comes to gameplay. It kind of gets boring, even though it's a fun game. It's a fun game when you play it one time. It's fun. On higher difficulty, it's just you take more damage. That's pretty much it. Higher difficulty is just meaningless to me, to be honest. Even on Revengeance, if you're good at parrying, you can literally just ace the game as well. So that's one of the things about it. So that's one of the things I would say personally when it comes to gameplay. isn't too great, but the game is like has a very good strong 60 frames per second. It's strong 60 frames. It's pretty fast paced. It's good. I like the fast pace, but in terms of like the moveset and combat, some of the moves that you're not gonna use. Let's be real, not gonna use. You're mostly gonna use the parry, 90%. So that's that one. The best thing about this game is probably the only one component that's like perfect is the soundtrack. My goodness, the soundtrack is fantastic, amazing, excellent, and it's by far, I would say, has the best soundtrack in the entire Metal Gear series, let alone video games. And the soundtrack still holds up to this day, and it's better than basically every single hack and slash game. If I want to say which is the best hack and slash action game soundtrack, I'll go with Rising any day. It beats Devil May Cry, it beats Ninja Gaiden, it beats God of War, it beats those soundtracks with ease. With ease. And I know this is kind of a bit of a bold statement, me saying this, but honestly the soundtrack still holds up to this day and it's still fucking awesome. If I compare soundtrack to Metal Gear Rising to Devil May Cry 5, Rising is a 10 times better soundtrack than Devil May Cry 5. Yes, that's right. Metal Gear Rising soundtrack is better than Buried Alive. Here, I said it. I'm not afraid to say it, because I would rather listen to Metal Gear Rising soundtrack any goddamn day than listen to Buried Alive. Because it's that fucking good, and I still listen to it every single day. And I actually wish Buried Alive was actually a Metal Gear Rising song. It fits that game. It doesn't fit like a Devil May Cry game. I'm just saying. It fits like a... Because that's what I was thinking when I first heard the Buried Alive. It was a... I felt like it should be a song from Metal Gear Rising. But folks, like, even hearing this part... Hearing that one, it just gives me Metal Gear Rising vibes. It does. You know? And actually, it fits to me, it fits Raiden's character, like with being all fucking cool and emo and all that shit. I don't know, whatever it is. So yeah. Oh yeah, speaking of which, in the gameplay department, they have a Reaper mode, which is basically the Devil Trigger mode. In other words, it's Devil Trigger mode. It has power, has strength, without the healing part. But yeah, he goes to like the Jack the Ripper, which is basically his, you know, what he is back in the whole war in Liberia. I think it was like the where place was in the second game, but whatever it is. I forgot about him, just two story anyway, so it's that one. So yeah, the soundtrack is amazing and I really like it. The game, unfortunately, is pretty short. It's the main campaign. It's just 6 levels, and that's pretty much it. So it's pretty short. It's a good like 4 to 3 hours long. So it's pretty short, and you can get through it pretty much easily in that game. So yeah. But I have to say the DLC makes up for it. First you got the Blade Wolf DLC, which is a decent DLC, but not the best one. Then you got the Just Stream Sam DLC, which is by far, I would say, the best DLC and probably the best game mode. Because this is kind of like, I'm really glad they have a Just Stream Sam DLC that happens before. Of course, the story of it is because, of course, the story of both DLCs happened before the events of the main game. And it shows a lot of Sam's personality. His personality flourished a lot. Even his screen time in the main game was short. It wasn't long. It was pretty short. He was there just for a few cutscenes and dies. He has one of the best themes in my opinion. So seeing, give him the DLC privilege, give him like a DLC, it's really good and it makes me happy to see his character thrive. And him and I would say Armstrong are two of the most charismatic villains in the Metal Gear franchise. Dare I say it. They're very charismatic. It kind of joins the ranks of the other villains. I don't know. Villains in Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear games are way better than main characters. Let's be real. I'm gonna be honest. They know how to make a good villain. Let's be real. Like the villains in Metal Gear games are fucking dope as hell. Props to that. So that's like one of the things I like about the DLC. The DLC is just pretty good, and playing as Sam is different than Raiden. Since Raiden is all about speed and mobility, Sam is focused on charge attacks. He's more of an offensive character than a defensive character. He favors offense over defense. It's the different to Raiden. Raiden's of course more defense to offense. So he's more defensive and can like stealth kill, and it's really cool. It's really cool about the game. I really think the DLC did justice for Just Stream Sam. It's kind of like a mix-up for its like shortcomings in the original, in the main game. I think that's all. So if I want to like rate every single thing about the story, I'm not gonna rate nothing about the story, honestly. The characters, I'll give a 5 out of 10. 5 because actually not 5. Actually, I'll give it 6 because of the villains. The main character, like the good guys, are boring. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot that Sonny from Metal Gear Solid 4 makes a return, like briefly. I was like, oh, okay. So that's that one. So in gameplay, I'll give it a bit of a 5 or 4. It has good gameplay, but I wish they could have had like better moves in it. I wish they had like one launching attack and like has like a Devil May Cry move, like gameplay. That's your normal hit, and you got the juggles and all that stuff. If it plays just like Devil May Cry, like exactly like Devil May Cry, I think the game could be a lot better. Even though people say it's a clone, it'll be much better, honestly. And heck, but I would say this is much better than Bayonetta. Bayonetta's is button mashing. Of course, I rather play with Revenge and Bayonetta on my opinion. It's button mashing and all that kind of stuff. When I played it, and it's not the best. It's just probably dodge and just like mash square, mash triangle button. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate for me saying most of these things, but I don't care. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate, but I don't care. I'm just saying my freaking piece and my opinions on that. Soundtrack, 10 out of 10. By far amazing. I'm gonna let you guys hear some of my favorite soundtracks right now.
Don't you
great. Those are amazing. Listen to the soundtrack. It's such an awesome soundtrack. Even like regular battle music are pretty cool. Not even just boss music. Regular battle music is great. And most of the songs I have on my phone are Metal Gear Solid music. Some of the Metal Gear Rising music. It's just that fucking good. The DLCs are good. The DLCs are pretty good. So that gets like that. And to me, if I give it out of 100, this game's kind of a 70 or a 60 out of 100. 60 to 70 out of 100. Like 60, yeah, 60 to 55. It's kind of half, so it's not that like excellent. You know, even though you can play through higher difficulties and all that kind of stuff, but I think this game doesn't really offer a lot, you know, too much, you know, compared to Devil May Cry, which is a much better game that actually offers a lot more, personally. With gameplay, that's, you know, you rarely get bored when it comes to Devil May Cry, you rarely get bored. But Metal Gear Rising, you just do the same thing over and over again. There's nothing, there's no like, it's like, sensitive to like learn new attacks. Unless you want to learn some other stuff, I'm sure, I guess, welcome. Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about is, since today is, you know, 19th, the day that I've heard rumors of Metal Gear Rising, Platinum Games gonna announce something that's Metal Gear Rising related, celebrating the 10-year anniversary. What I think of it, and like through like articles and stuff, I heard about it, so they're gonna hold an event. It's mostly gonna be a re-release. It's not gonna be a sequel, even though there was originally a sequel was planned back in 2014. But of course, you know how Konami was at that time period, they were in a downward spiral. So that's that one. So I would say more of a re-release of Revengeance, which hopefully I'll pick it up soon. If it's a re-release that's good, you know, I wouldn't mind a report of the game, you know, to get more people into it. So that's that. And what I think of, like, okay, so what a lot of people said, did Kojima have his hands on the game? No. It had nothing to do with the game. He had nothing to do with it, because Metal Gear Solid Rising was originally supposed to happen prior to 4 and after 2, so it's between. And it's supposed to be part of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. It's definitely going to be a stealth game, of course. But it shut down the idea. I would like to see the pre-build of that game and see how it is. It'll be kind of cool to see, or maybe hell, release both of them. Release the Metal Gear Solid Rising and Metal Gear Rising. Put them both in the game. It'll be kind of interesting and cool to see like both games on the sides, and because there's many people who wanted one than the other. There's people want one than the other. You know, that's how it is. So, my thoughts on the game: it's a good game. It's short. Is it worth your money? Yes, to some degree. If you're a fan of if you're a fan of the Metal Gear series and you haven't played the series, it's up to you. It's up to you if you want to play it. It's not really up to me. It's up to you if you want to play the game. Some of them don't like it. I know people who don't like the game. People who love the game. Mostly people who like the game who never played the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Let's be honest here. There's some who played the Metal Gear Solid franchise actually love the game. So there are some. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. It's a great game, and I believe it should be played once. I don't think it's a game you can just play multiple times, unless if you were to go trophy hunting, going ahead. You know, you can do that one. So you got that one. So there you have it. So what do you think of the game? Leave it down in the comments. Do you like the game? Do you hate the game? Do you think the game is undeserving? Do you think the game is shitty? Like, I would love to know what you guys think of the game, in your opinion. Leave it down in the comments. So yeah, that's my review of my Metal Gear Rising experience. I'll call this, but I'll call this more like a Metal Gear Rising honest review. That's gonna be the title of this video. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Boring. I understand. But then, what will you do?
I've got my own war to fight.